right. Good evening, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and call to order the Bristol, Virginia City Council for January the 24th, 2023. Please join me in a moment of silence. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Well, thank you all for coming. We've got a full house and a full agenda to go along with it. Before we jump into it, I'm going to open it up. Well, actually, before we jump into council comments, I'm going to note that Councilman Holmes is, as you can see, joining us via Zoom, and Vice Mayor Nave had a work commitment, so she's unable to participate either in person or remotely. I'm going to open it up to council comments. You good? I will say, I do have a couple things I wanted to talk about very briefly. Normally, we like council comments to be good news, but sometimes it's sad news. Just wanted to note a couple of people in our community who passed away in the past week or two. It's no secret that Councilman Farnham and I both went to John Battle, but I hope you don't hold that against us. A teacher who spent over 30 years at John Battle, and he impacted a lot of people's lives, passed away. Randy Smith, and he was our cross country coach, and he taught at VI as well. And he was a very important part of the Bristol and Abingdon community, and just wanted to note his passing, as well as Mickey Harlow, who is our former Mayor Ed Harlow's wife, passed away several days ago. She had some health issues in recent years, and I really hate that for him. She was a very smart, sweet lady. So please keep him in your thoughts as well. Move on to city manager's comments.
Yeah, Council, I just have one quick comment here as soon as I get it pulled up. First, I do want to send my condolences to Randy Smith's family. His wife was my teacher at Abingdon High School, and one of the best teachers I've had. So I hate that for her and her family. Next, I would like to recognize Pat Malone. Pat Malone is an employee in our Parks and Rec department, and she is retiring after 35 years of service here at the city. So her last day will be January 31st. We appreciate everything Pat's done for the city. She's been an integral part of the Parks and Rec team, and seeing her go is going to be big shoes to fill, but hopefully someone can fill them, but it will take some time. So congratulations to Pat.
All right, thank you very much. We'll move on to matters to be presented by members of the public for non-agenda items. What we're going to do, we have several people who are signed up, so I'm just going to kind of run through the guidelines. When you come up to the microphone and your name is called, there'll be a little green light that comes on. You have 3 minutes. When the yellow light comes on, that means you're at about 15 seconds, and when the red light comes on, that means you're out of time. Public comment is just that, it's public comment, so we do not traditionally respond. We just listen and learn and take notes. And the way we're going to do this in order is we're going to give, because there are several people signed up, precedent to City of Bristol, Virginia residents first, and then we'll move on, time allowing, to anyone who is not a City of Bristol, Virginia resident. First person we have is Mr. Knupp.
Good evening, everybody. Just wanted to take a moment here, and I'll make this sweet, short and sweet. Just wanted to congratulate Michael, Jake for their new position on council, Neil and Becky for what you're doing, Anthony stepping down, staying with the council. We appreciate you guys. Randy, hope you're going to do better for us. They got you back in here. Want to get more involved we've had a mess. You guys have done a great job on different things here in the city, all right? This landfill's the number one thing. It's bad. Got some more bad news yesterday, which all of you know that. And it's right in my front door. Pretty damn scary. But anyways, I'm not going to get into a whole lot of it here. I just want to congratulate you. And these folks back here, pro-life and all, it's all good. Now, if y'all are really worried about all these little children, unborn and born, in our school systems, these kids are suffering too. So y'all might want to look around and get involved in it a little bit. I mean, that's our future, these kids. And this landfill's hurting them. It's hurting everybody. Everybody here in this room that lives in the city, on both sides, it's hurting them. But anyways, have a good night.
Thank you very much. Next person is Ginger Fleener.
Ginger Fleener, I'm a resident of Bristol, Virginia. I woke up this morning and the first thing that was on my mind was, you will know a tree by its fruits. And I've done a lot of praying and thinking today, and I look at the city of Bristol, Virginia, and it's heart-shattering. You've got the mess with the landfill. We're hundreds of millions in debt, 2 lawsuits. Our community schools are being taken away. The jail's closed. I mean, the list could go on and on and on. There's an abortion clinic in this city. You know, I've been in here many a times, and everybody has always claimed they care about the kids. Nothing has ever been proven to the community. You all have never proved anything to us, except what not to do. I'm praying that God convicts your hearts, each and every one of you, that you stand for life, and that you make a safe zone for the unborn, for the born. This city is dark, and it's not going to light up until God steps in, but you have to let him.
Thank you very much. Next person is Deborah Brown.
I also am a resident of the city here. I moved here 7.5 years ago for retirement. And since we've been here, I see that we have now a casino and an abortion clinic. And not only that, but a regional abortion clinic. People coming from all over. It is really a disturbing turn for a city who advertises itself as a good place to live. I urge you to listen to your constituents, to those people who do show up to vote for our councilmen and other elected officials. We believe that we are all created in the image of God, and babies inside the womb are the most precious, vulnerable citizens. Even dogs have more protection than they do. Please open your hearts to this. I know you've got many other things on your plate, but this is probably the most important decision that you'll ever make in your life. I beg you to consider this resolution to make Bristol a safe zone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next person is Cheryl Hanslick.
My name is Dr. Cheryl Hanslick, and I live in Bristol, Virginia. The words I will be emoting will be based on and backed up by facts. I will have data, statistics, pictures, and receipts to prove my points. I will do more than say everybody knows and then assert unsupported fallacies and beliefs. Most of my words respond to the falsehoods presented by the other side. Is there even sides to the topic of health care? Everyone needs it, and it should be freely available, particularly to the gender that holds up more than half the world. First, do not say you speak for me, all people are women. Stop using everyone knows and agrees. I duly resent people coming into my city from afar and speaking for me and wreaking havoc on the community. You come to bully and shame the citizenry and other particular visitors in Bristol, Virginia. I've seen the damage these outside agitators have created in the city, and it ain't pretty. Bristol, Virginia relies on its tourist industry to maintain its fiscal soundness, and you aren't doing it any favors with your presence. Abortion does not harm women. Scientific studies have concluded that the vast majority of women who obtain abortions believe it was the right decision. And relief was the most prominent emotion reported, and women remain certain in their decision over time. So please don't heap your judgment, shame, and blame on women making a private medical decision that is in their best interest for them and their families. You are the ones creating the damage. Women seeking abortion don't fill up the healthcare system in emergency rooms. Among all ED visits by women, 1 in 10,000 is due to induced abortion relations. The rate of major incidents is low. Perceptions that abortions are unsafe and not evidence-based. Of the 141.4 million ED visits, only 4,656, that's less than 1 out of 330,000 visits, was due to an induced abortion. They say pray to end all abortions. Spontaneous abortions before 20 weeks gestation occur up to 25% of all pregnancies. So yes, please pray to God to end them, because he causes 78% of them. Induced abortions are 22% of all the abortions in the USA. When an abortion is legal, it is safe and complications rare. Worldwide, 13% of maternal deaths are due to induced abortions where it is illegal. Making abortion illegal does not reduce the rate, it just results in killing mothers. A recent study comparing the states where abortion is illegal to those where it is not has resulted in the following. Mothers who live in the states that banned abortion after overturning Roe versus Wade are up to 3 times more likely to die during pregnancy, childbirth, or shortly thereafter. Data also showed babies born in states that banned abortion are 30% more likely to die in the first month of their life. And finally, trying to force another person or group to do your bidding never works. You would be imposing on a person's free will that God has granted to all, and he does not approve. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next person is Chris Hess.
Good evening, I'm Father Chris Hess. I live at 970 Chester Street. I'm the pastor of St. Anne's Catholic Church, and as of this week, the co-leader of the newly established Sidewalk Advocates for Life Bristol chapter. So we're not going away. We came here first asking to try and create a safe zone for life in Bristol. I know a lot of people that voted expecting to see more movement on this, and we're just, we need to see more happening in the city. If you look at all the attention that this city is getting, I'm being asked questions about this in Richmond. I'm hearing things about this across state. Everybody is watching us, and we're getting the attention that we shouldn't be getting right now. And what's really happening here? We have a clinic. We went from having one clinic in Tennessee that was doing abortions 2 days a week to overnight having a clinic in Virginia that's doing them 6 days a week. Why? Because they're not serving this area. Somebody saw a license plate from Florida the other day. That's what this is all about. Do we really need that here? But it's here. And what we're asking is not going to stop that. All we're asking is that we stop this from expanding, stop this from getting out of control. Do we get even more of the wrong attention in this city? Do you want this to go further? Do you want to have Planned Parenthood set up shop in the city, and you're not going to know about it until the day before it happens? Ask the city leaders in Roanoke, in Virginia Beach, what it's been like for them after that happened. As safe as abortion we're hearing is, ask my former colleagues in Virginia Beach EMS how many times they respond to Planned Parenthood and how much news coverage they get every time they do that. Do you really want that in Bristol? This is such a great place to live right now. We have a chance to do so much to keep it that way. I'm just asking you to consider that.
All right, thank you very much. That was the last City of Bristol, Virginia resident, so we'll move on to people from outside city limits, and it looks like we have several. So Sandy Harmon?
Thank you so much for allowing us to speak today. Bristol, I look at your sign up there and it says a good place to live. It doesn't say a good place to die. And that's what we're making a choice on, whether it's a good place to live or to die. Council members who were born pre-1973, you didn't have to worry about it because your mom had you. And you're here to serve and do everything else that you do in this city. For those who were born post-Roe v. Wade, you are blessed that your mother chose life and not death. Bristol City should be a safe zone. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next person is Mary Peters.
Good evening. I'm in Abingdon, but this affects me too and all the areas around Bristol. That's why I'm here. You could say the sky isn't blue, it's green, but you would be wrong. You could say abortion isn't murder, but you would be wrong. Whether you believe the truth of God's law that taking another person's innocent life is evil or does nothing, if you believe that or not, it does nothing to detract from its inherent truth. We all know murder is wrong. God has written it upon our hearts. The moms and dads driving to Osborne Street know it too. Whether it is done by chemicals, lethal injection, forceps, or the like, it is the same murder. Whether it is done at fertilization, 8 weeks or 20 weeks, it is the same murder. We may call it ending a pregnancy to ease our consciences, but we know it is much more than that. Killing a bald eagle seems cruel, but it is not murder. Killing a sea turtle seems unnecessary, but it is not murder. Murder is unjustifiably taking the life of an innocent human being. If we see abortion for what it is, and that is murder, we will make sure it will have no place in our community. We will make sure it is never codified into law at any stage. We will make sure our local zoning laws and ordinances restrict clinics seeking to practice it. We will make sure people know the devastating effects it has on mom, dad, and the whole community. The people that visit Osborne Street in Bristol are already parents. They are either parents of a child that is dead or alive. Has the parent's life really been so dreadful that they won't even give their own child a chance at life? Who are they to decide whether their child gets to blow out their first birthday candles? Who are they to decide if their child gets to fall down over and over until he finally realizes that he knows how to walk? Who are they to decide whether the child gets to live at all? Whether the child may have a potentially hard life or not? It is not their decision. The child's life is valuable because God breathed life into them and imprinted his image upon them. Children can reason, unlike bald eagles. They can communicate with God directly, unlike sea turtles. And don't get me wrong, I'm vegan. I don't even eat animals. I love them. They're great. But human life is far superior to any other life form because God says so. Whether you believe that to be true or not, the fact is unchanged. And if you are honest, you know it to be true in your heart of hearts. For this reason, you need to have courage and do what you can do to rescue those being led away to death. Hold back those staggering toward slaughter. If you say, "Behold, we did not know about this," does not he who weighs hearts consider it? Does not the one who guards your life know? Will he not repay a man according to his deeds? Proverbs 24:11 and 12. I urge you to get the safe zone ordinance back on the agenda, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person is Penny Farless? Ferris. I'm sorry.
Hello. My name is Penny Ferris. I am on the board of Pathways Pregnancy Resource Center here in Bristol. and I would like to thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I would like to address some of the common arguments that I've heard throughout this process, both in Bristol and in
Close the mic.
Washington County.
Yeah, bend the microphone a little bit closer too, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I would like to address some of the arguments I've heard both here in Bristol and in Washington County throughout this process. The first of these addresses women's health services. It's often said that abortion clinics provide needed services to women in lower income brackets. However, both in Virginia and in Tennessee, Medicaid insurance programs exist. TennCare in Tennessee and Virginia Medicaid in Virginia. And these provide affordable insurance coverage to everyone below a certain income level, and most often at no cost to the recipient. Medicaid is usually free for this population, and our local OBGYN facilities provide a far greater range of services than abortion or women's health clinics, and higher quality care. These services are available to all women in our area by simply filling out the paperwork to sign up for Medicaid, and to suggest that women in lower income brackets cannot receive the care they need is a fallacy, especially in our region. No one in this region is denied care. Secondly, I often hear an argument for the separation of church and state. However, the phrase separation of church and state is not in our Constitution. It is a phrase that comes from a letter written by Thomas Jefferson to the Danbury Baptist Association, where he referenced a metaphor used by Roger Williams, who founded the colony of Rhode Island. Roger Williams was banned from the Massachusetts Bay for his religious beliefs in 1636. In this letter, Thomas Jefferson said religion was a matter which lies solely between man and his God, and the legislature should make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, thus building a wall between the church and the state. This is where that phrase comes from. And when we look at the context of these statements, we see that the idea of separation of church and state was to protect the church from the state, not the other way around. It was to prevent the state from creating one religion that all citizens would be required to participate in, and to prevent the state from dictating how individuals both express their religious beliefs and how they worship. The final argument is that women have the right to choose. This statement is also a fallacy. Women do not have the right to choose. The Declaration of Independence declares that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. According to the legal dictionary, inalienable rights are rights that are not transferable or capable of being taken away or nullified. Every unborn baby in the womb is a person and has these unalienable rights, which are not transferable to the mother. The mother's rights do not and cannot supersede the rights of the child. To have ever had abortion clinics in the first place goes against everything our country was founded on. I would encourage you to consider that the current climate of chaos and disorder in our country reflects that we have gone against our founding principles. I hope that we can change direction and that you will push this ordinance forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person is Erica Schazenbach. My apologies if I mispronounced that.
That's all right. Erica Schanzenbach. I live in Mendota, outside the city. Thank you for hearing me tonight. 9 babies. That's how many innocent children I witnessed being brought to the slaughter right here in your city last Friday morning. That was only before 11 a.m. I don't know what the final body count was that day. I had to go to work, but their blood business was open all day. Those 9 children were unique and precious individuals created in the image of God, and their blood cries out to him from the ground. Do you want more bloodshed in Bristol? The voices of more murdered children crying out to God against us. If not, I urge you to action. You have a good ordinance before you. Do not shrink back now. Push it forward. Whether we like it or not, controversy has found us. Reporters have come calling. We are a microcosm of the national debate, they say. And perhaps they are correct. If simply honoring God's command to love our neighbors as ourselves, including our most defenseless preborn neighbors, brings controversy to our doorstep, so be it. Maybe our lives here can teach the nation a lesson about what it means to practice the golden rule and do for innocent babies a bare minimum of what we would want done for us. Passing an ordinance to keep baby murder out of this jurisdiction is merely obedience to God's command to love your neighbor as yourself and to do for helpless babies but what you would want anyone else to do for you. This is Christianity 101. You cannot pass your responsibility to anyone else. You have both the legal right and the moral duty to do what is right and just and protect the people in your jurisdiction, all of them. No one cares about your personal pro-life opinions. That's not why we're here today. We're here today about your actions. The Bible leaves no room for a Christianity that stays in your heart and fails to work its way out in your deeds. Faith without works is dead. Jesus rebuked the leaders of his day for contenting themselves with tithing their mint and cumin while neglecting the weightier matters of justice and mercy. The book of James warns us, whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, to him it is sin. It's easy for us to look back in the history books and praise the courage of those who were heroes in another age. We imagine that if we lived in their time, we would have been with them. We would have been one of them. But heroes are forged in the fires of adversity. You do not get to wear the badge of courage if you're unwilling to take the heat. The book of Proverbs warns, if you faint in the day of adversity, your strength is small. Do not faint. Now is the time for decisive action. We beg you to put the safe zone back on the agenda and push it forward quickly. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person signed up is Joe Carr.
Hello, I'm Joe Carr. I live in Kingsport, Tennessee. I haven't had a chance to meet you fine folks before, but I'm a fellow elected official. I proudly serve on the Sullivan County Commission representing District 9. I happened to be in town over at the Blackbird getting me some creme brulee. I figured I'd mosey on over here and see what the fuss was all about. Now, I'm the type of guy I always cross my I's and dot my T's. I always do my research, and I was pretty shocked, you know. I found out that you guys have had a serial killer in Bristol for 40 years. His name is Wesley F. Adams, Jr., and he's been chopping little babies up for 40 years. In case you're wondering, that's 14 years longer than I've been on God's green earth. It's a good thing I wasn't born in Bristol, or I could have been one of his victims. And I'll tell you something else. I'm not just a county commissioner, I'm also a realtor. And I know what you're thinking. What does that have to do with the price of tea in China? Well, I can pull up tax records like that. And it turns out that your serial killer, he's living pretty well for himself. His house has a tax-appraised value of $391,000. I guess crime does pay. So now, I'm going to keep this short and sweet. You're either a Republican or you're not. You're either a Christian or you're not. You either want Jesus or you want Barabbas. Thank you very much. Do the right thing.
Thank you. Next person signed up is Miss Becky Evenden.
Hello. Becky Evenden, 210 Race Day Center Drive, Bristol, Tennessee. And you guys know that I'm here about the landfill. So I wonder if any of you up there know that there were several times that the workers had to leave the quarry landfill site because their personal badges were alarming for carbon monoxide or depressed oxygen. I wonder if you know that the neighbors were not notified when this occurred. In fact, the neighbors aren't hearing really anything that's going on there from a safety perspective. I'm also wondering if you know that multiple times over the past year, there were methane gas detections at the perimeter of that landfill that are so close to homes, and these people were not notified that this was happening. When you have methane gas, I'm sorry, is this echoing for everybody else?
We hear you good.
No, we're good, okay.
You're good.
Then I won't worry about it. When you have methane gas being detected underground behind homes, that can travel and that can fill buildings that are nearby. And in fact, your Virginia code says that when this happens and you have detections that are over a certain limit, which you guys are like the limit is here and like you guys are like up here, you are supposed to take all immediate steps necessary to protect public health and safety, including those required by the contingency plan, which I don't know what that is, but I'm concerned because residents are not being notified that this is happening in their backyard, and there is the possibility that that gas can actually reach explosive levels in their homes. They don't have monitors for this. They don't have meters to like alarm them if this happens. So I want to suggest that immediately you do what other localities have done when this has happened. And that is, for example, in Kentwood, Michigan, when this happened, they notified all residents within 1,500 feet that there were methane exceedances in the ground. They also had a public meeting about it to let people know, and they offered free monitoring for anyone that was concerned. You could actually go to Home Depot today and you could buy a $50 monitor for carbon monoxide and explosive gas. You'd probably have to place a kind of big order because you might be talking 100 homes within the 1,000 feet distance. But I would ask you guys right now to find a way to provide those residents near that landfill, near where those exceedances are occurring, with monitors for their home now so that they can know that they are safe. And then if something does happen, that risk isn't on them. They can call the fire department, have them come out and monitor. So all that being said, I hope that makes sense. Please know that this is a very serious health and safety concern for residents near that landfill. This is a really big deal. And when that methane gas is migrating from a landfill facility, again, it can fill up any structure nearby. It can reach explosive levels, and bam, people are on. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Next person signed up is Dr. Weddington.
I'm going to do this to city clerk. I have copies for council. Reverend Dr. Samuel Weddington, Senior Pastor, First Presbyterian Church, Bristol, Tennessee. Council members, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I want you to just ask yourself this question: what does Sioux City, Iowa, Belle Vernon, Pennsylvania, and Delhi, India have in common? It's this: they all have landfills that are in really bad shape. They have gases, flooding homes, neighborhoods, structures, and each of them recently, within the last couple of years, have experienced explosions that injured workers and in some cases injured nearby residents. According to the notice of a violation that Becky referenced, given to the city on January 19th by the state of Virginia's Department of Environmental Quality, your landfill's permit site 498 is in severe violation of what is called the lower explosive limit or level for methane. According to that notification, as Becky said, you are way, way above where you need to be. And to make matters even worse, according to sections 3, 4, and 5 of that violation, it is clear that the city failed to provide written notification to the state on June 3rd, 2021, September 29th, 2021, December 14th, 2021, March 24th, 2022, and June 29th, 2022, that threshold had been exceeded. That is a very serious set of violations. That buildup, as Becky was saying, of methane that exceeds that explosive threshold means that the possibility exists in Bristol, Virginia, of what happened in Iowa, Pennsylvania, and India can become a reality for us. Now, I hope maybe you have noted or you have not, I have tried my best to refrain from being publicly critical of city leadership on the landfill issue because my hope was that things were finally on the right track. But it is clear, it's a matter of record, this is a year of noncompliance. And what's worse to me is it's more than a year. You have known for more than a year and you have not told residents. There are people that live within a couple hundred feet of that site and they don't know. I live within a few thousand feet of that site and I don't know until I read the notification that there is an explosion possibility at 498. This is not a series of exchanges letters between a beleaguered city and state officials and politicians. It's not a game of regulatory hot potato. This is people's lives, their homes, their families, their well-beings. It's about your workers. I am begging you in that letter, you need to start making a plan for the possibility of a worst case scenario. You need to call the Virginia Department of Emergency Management to help you assist in that and to take the opportunity also to talk about relief for your citizens. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next person who has signed up actually is a City of Bristol, Virginia resident, but paper stuck together. It's Kevin McCroskey.
Thank you. To clarify, I'm not a Bristol resident. My property straddles the city-county line, so I am a Bristol taxpayer.
Well, thank you.
Reading a couple excerpts from the Virginia Declaration of Rights, which provided inspiration for our Declaration of Independence and also our Bill of Rights. Section 1, that all men are by nature equally free and independent and have certain inherent rights, of which when they enter into a state of society they cannot by any compact deprive or divest their posterity, namely the enjoyment of life and liberty, with the means of acquiring and possessing property and pursuing and obtaining happiness and safety. So our freedom and independence do not confer on us any right to deprive other generations of their rights. Section 3, that government is or ought to be instituted for the common benefit, protection, and security of the people, nation, or community of all the various modes and forms of government that is best, which is capable of producing the greatest degree of happiness and safety and is most effectually secured against the danger of maladministration. And hopefully the emphasis on the primary role and principal role of government in defending the safety and security of its citizens isn't lost here on any of us. And also the rights affirmed in Section 7 of the Declaration of Rights are echoed in the Bill of Rights, which guarantees that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. And I would argue, sadly, that such deprivation of rights is exactly what happens every week in the abortion clinic in our community. And I expect none of us would have guessed a little more than a year ago that we would be facing this kind of conversation, debate, discussion in our community, but here we are. And also, sadly, our legislature in the Commonwealth is derelict in its duty of rising up to protect the most defenseless among us. And so it falls to you to interpose and stand up and do all that you are able, all in your power, to secure their rights, the rights of our posterity. I encourage you and urge you to take up this agenda item as soon as possible and stand for the defenseless. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person is Jean Kreitzer.
Hi, I'm Jean Kreitzer, and I live in Bristol, Virginia, actually Washington County. And I'd just like to request that you all visit the possibility of making Bristol a safe zone. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person is Angie Bush.
Hello. Yes, I'm Angie Bush. I live in Abingdon, Virginia, but I work in Bristol, Virginia. I worship in Bristol, Virginia, and I spend many hours during the week in Bristol, Virginia, including eating and shopping. So I am Christian, and I 100% agree that all human life is valuable, but I want to speak to you tonight to the scientific part and the reason part of you in order to encourage you to get the safe zone agenda back on, ordinance back onto your agenda. So science and reason has proven 100% that humans are born to humans. So at the moment of conception, we have, you see a unique DNA. At that moment of conception, the person's sex, eyes, hair color, all of those things are determined. And by day 21 after conception, you have, the blood, the kidney, the nerve cells, you have the heart, you have a small heartbeat that is present, but significant. It's a human heartbeat. So abortion is the deliberate termination of a human pregnancy, and so when that happens, a child dies. This is not healthcare. Healthcare is meant to restore and prevent problems. Healthcare is not meant to do any harm. I'm here to let you know that abortion does harm women. It leaves them with emotional, spiritual, and sometimes physical wounds. Rachel's Vineyard is a post-abortion healing opportunity for women, for family, for men, for siblings who have lost siblings due to abortion. Rachel's Vineyard is present in 49 states and 70 countries around the world. That's a lot of need for healing. So I think that in itself, even if there isn't a statistic that says, oh, women aren't hurt, this shows there's a need for healing after abortion. One woman stated, while her pregnancy would have lasted only 9 months, her abortion has lasted her a lifetime. That woman was 80 years old when she said that. Sometimes these wounds, these spiritual, these emotional wounds don't surface until the woman has a grandchild, or in this woman's instance, she admitted carrying that, and she was 80 years old, still trying to heal. And I also want to point out that the lie of don't believe my body, my choice. I am 100% thankful that each day we all follow the laws that control our bodies when we are in our car. We stay in our lanes, we put on our seatbelts, we aren't texting, and we are all driving on the right side of the road. So in essence, our bodies are controlled. And I am grateful for that because I am here tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next person is, I can't read your last name, it's Eileen on Old Dominion Road.
Hi, it's Eileen Panasevich. I live in Washington County. I do live right on the border of Bristol, and I work in Bristol, I shop in Bristol, I eat in Bristol, my kids do their clubs in Bristol. So there's a lot of money coming from us here into your city, and that's what you rely on. My question to you tonight is, what are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? Just put it on the agenda. See where it goes. Obviously, by how many people are here, you have constituent support of people that are affected by what happens in this city. You're not going to outlaw abortion. You're going to stop it from spreading. And I can promise you, no matter what you do, we're not going away. We're going to show up day after day and continue to advocate against the clinic here in town. And I can promise you, If you think you're gonna wait us out on this, you won't. We're gonna keep coming. We're gonna keep talking. What are you afraid of? Just put it on the agenda and let it work through. We're not afraid. We're the ones on the sidewalk. You guys aren't. We're fighting. Just put it on the agenda. Thank you.
All right, next person is Patricia Manis.
My name is Patricia Manis, and I'm from Bristol, Tennessee. And Randy, it's good to see you. I want to thank 40 Days for Life for, letting me stand up with them. The reason that I'm doing this is because I was raped as a child growing up and beat and stuff. I can't never have kids. So, I thank God for the chance to be up here tonight. And I want to say I'm sorry for your all's loss and stuff. And for the schools, we need more protection, more cops in there to help with our kids and stuff. And what I'd also like to see too is if we could maybe put the 10 Commandments back up, because we're losing too many kids and stuff. Kids are important, they make the world go round and stuff. We just need to protect our kids. All this about this crazy abortion clinic and also the casino, we need to get rid of that because kids need to live and stuff. I love them with all my heart. I've watched kids, I babysit kids, I've helped take care of kids, I've wiped many a butts. And also we need to maybe get the families to dress their children a little bit more better and not wear booty shorts and maybe get themselves raped and complain. And, we need to take care of our kids. Thank you for the chance to speak. God bless you all.
Thank you. All right, next person is Dayton Owens.
My name is Dayton Owens. I'm from Glade Springs, Virginia, 10350 Old Mill Road. It's a good place to visit, too. I've made 3 visits down here today, one this morning bringing one of our church members to a doctor, and one this afternoon bringing one to the doctor, and back here today. So it is a good place to visit also. I was going to speak to you tonight about what would Jesus do? And that was a common phrase way back there, an acronym people used. However, I thought about that recently, and I spoke to our planning commission last night about what would Jesus do. And I'd like to leave you with that question before I go on. I'm changing myself in about midstream here because what I heard out here a while ago, one of the ladies spoke about the butchery that takes place. I read a book. Well, first of all, I had a visiting pastor come to our church and preach, and he preached on the sanctity of life. Or the abortion issue. As a result of that, I got active in politics. I went my first time and worked for Reagan at the polls, so you can see how long I've been in it, for a good while. These folks are going to be in it a good while too, I'll assure you. But another thing I was thinking about is a book I read about 20 years ago. It was given to me by my cousin. It was called Into the Darkness. That book described what took place over in Nazi Germany. It talked about how they gathered up the Jews, crammed them into cars, cattle cars, took them down the road, down the tracks. One incident in that book, it talks about this. They went by this church, and the church was taught, when the train comes by, sing a little louder so you can't hear the screams. Sing a little louder so you can't hear the screams. Of course, they arrived at the meal there where they took them out. The men were taken one way, and the young children and the ladies were taken another way. And you know what happened in those meals. How many? 6 million Jews. They don't tell you also that they used the media, which we're using today, and and the news media and people in power to be able to do that. What bothers me is how in the world can we get to a mindset where human beings will take other human beings' life? How do you get there? I can't rectify it. I mean, they took away 6 million Jews, plus those people that were infirmed mentally, physically. And so how did we get there? And how did we get here tonight? This abortion clinic couldn't be here in Bristol, Virginia. It shouldn't be anywhere. You're taking human life. And I hope you remember that. And I'll leave you with this. What would Jesus do?
Thank you. Next person is Joe Kearns.
Thank you. My name is Joe Kearns. I'm from Blunteville, Tennessee. Just want to share a few things with you. Children, especially newborns, they have the supernatural ability to just melt our hearts. Their sweet innocence and their gentle features can tenderize some of the crustiest people. Of course, there are a few exceptions. At times, the very presence of babies born and unborn has hardened human hearts beyond all comprehension, making monsters of man or perhaps revealing the monsters that they already were. For example, Pharaoh, for his lust for power, caused him to order Hebrew midwives to drown every newborn male in the Nile River, driving him further into his darkness. Centuries later, the news of the newborn baby in Bethlehem drove King Herod into madness, causing him to commission a killing squad to hunt down and slaughter every baby boy under the age of 2. Regrettably, cold-blood child killers aren't confined to ancient history. We've heard of them in our days. They've been in the headlines. They've been in the news. Consider late-term abortionist Kermit Gosnell. Gosnell is serving a life sentence for delivering babies in his clinic, then murdering them by snipping their spinal cords with scissors. To me, that's horrid, barbaric, and gruesome, isn't it? But how long are we going to stand back and let that same thing happen in our city? I can tell you that we believers and followers of Jesus Christ will stand firm, stand against, protest this kind of madness. We believe that all lives matter. Rich, poor, black, white, Jew, Gentile, born and unborn. To acknowledge the humanity of the unborn children is to call them our neighbors. According to Jesus, this requires something from us. We are to love those neighbors as ourselves. And whether that neighbor has been beaten and left at the roadside in a ditch, or that neighbor is relabeled as unwanted or unplanned and abandoned in the mother's womb, both the love of Christ and the love for Christ compels us to see the unborn through His eyes, not as an inconvenience or an embarrassment, but as a precious, tiny brother and sister of ours, worthy of our love and our protection. On June 24th of this year, Roe was overturned, and Judge Samuel Alito's opinion joined our 4 conservative justices, and he wrote, Roe was egregiously wrong from its start. Its reasoning was exceptionally weak, and the decision has damaging consequences. And far from bringing about a national settlement of the abortion issue, Roe and Casey have inflamed debate and deepened division. It is time to heed Constitution and to return the issue of abortion to the people's elected representatives. Gentlemen, I was in this room almost 3 months to the day, and it was voted 5-0 to send the proposed ordinance to the Planning and Zoning Commission. And I have yet to see or hear anything done about that. And I urge you to stand up for the most defenseless within our neighbors in our community and get that back on our agenda and see it turned in. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next person is Rachel Mail.
Thank you for letting me speak today. My name is Rachel Mill, and I'm in Doda Road. I
I am here this evening because I want to add my voice to those who ask and urge you all to take action and see the pro-life ordinance to fruition. The importance of this ordinance cannot be overstated. Human lives and futures are at stake, justice is at stake, and the protection of the weak is at stake. This is why we are speaking up, because the decisions that we make as a community and the actions that you take or fail to take as our leaders will be the deciding factor between life and death. How many people failed to speak out or act in the best interest of their neighbors when their fellow men were being enslaved and treated as less than human a little over a century ago? How many people turned a blind eye to the suffering and murder of millions of Jews? So many people were willing to justify their actions, as well as their inaction and complacency, by telling themselves that the Jews were less than human. The same dehumanization and slaughter of the innocent is happening today with babies in the womb. Will we learn nothing from history? Will we participate in a narrative that dehumanizes our own neighbors? You have heard the narrative that abortion is health care or a woman's right. This language is used to subtly sidestep and ignore the nature of what an abortion actually is and who all is involved. Planned Parenthood describes an abortion as the ending or removal of pregnancy. What does pregnancy mean? It means that a distinct individual, a human being, a baby, is developing in the womb. What is abortion? It is the destruction, the literal dismemberment of a developing human being. How many millions of babies have been dehumanized and reduced to a clump of cells in order to justify their murder? This heinous evil and injustice is happening in our country and for some of us, our own neighborhood. History is repeating itself, but this time the casualties outnumber the loss of life experienced in the Holocaust by more than 55 million. We will speak as many times as we are able because it cannot be overstated that human lives are at stake. Our laws are meant to protect and defend human life, to promote justice and defend the unalienable rights of every individual without exception. Please do not shrink back. When you have the power and the opportunity to fight for the weak, uphold justice and safeguard the next generation. Do not let our county participate in the slaughter of defenseless children. God commands us to speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and needy. God is the one who has put each and every one of you into your positions of leadership and authority. Your responsibility is to act within the best interest of your fellow man, to seek to establish and maintain justice, and to fight against those laws, institutions, and individuals who would pervert justice and do evil to their fellow man. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, folks, we're getting close to the end. We got 5 more. Next person is Charles Humphrey.
Thank you, City Council members, for hearing us out once again. I am Charles Humphrey from 16117 Barn Rock Road, Mendota, Virginia. I've lived, studied, worked, and worshiped the bulk of my life in Bristol, and most of my sales tax goes to Bristol, Virginia. I make this point because there seems to be a sentiment that there is a lot of people that do not live within the Bristol city limits that are wanting this ordinance prohibiting abortion mills passed, and that is actually the case. But as you all are especially aware of the sickening stench of what occurs in Bristol, Virginia for profit can be often experienced in Washington County, Virginia, and in Bristol, Tennessee. What happens in Bristol affects our lives as well because we also live our lives here day by day. Just as the landfill once brought this city profit by exchanging what was unwanted and discarded from people from other states, people in states very disconnected from the life of Bristol, Virginia, mind you, the current desire to continue abortion business in Bristol, Virginia relies on people from other states and actually profits people from other states. It is the genius of their money-making plan. Since the people from their communities don't want that stench of death in their backyard, it seems Bristol continues to be happy to funnel that blood money here. Has Bristol not learned that you cannot just exchange and cover up other people's destruction for profit without it eventually affecting and harming the whole region? The owner of the Bristol abortion mill, Diane Derezes, doesn't live here, and she knows that you will work for her because you are happy to take her money. The Tennessee Lookout quoted her saying, "I don't need a welcome map from anyone in this city. We pay taxes, they take them." She doesn't care what the people of this region think about what she does, because she thinks that as long as she is bringing the city money, you don't care either. She makes money wherever she can, with no regard to the destruction and chaos she brings to the lives of those in her path. Columbus, Georgia, Las Cruces, New Mexico, and Richmond, Virginia. She used to make money in Jackson, Mississippi, until that state finally told her enough was enough. She took them to the Supreme Court, and in reply, last year the Supreme Court confirmed to the nation that there is no constitutional right to kill babies in the womb. So she just moved her chaos here, assuming that we are a bunch of chumps that don't mind the chaos it brings to our community as long as we're getting paid. She mocks, "I must love the chaos," unquote. She knows what she's doing. Do you know what you're doing by letting this chaos continue? 3 of you communicated to your constituents in October that you would respond to the concerns about abortion mills in this community by employing the Planning Commission to do the work of putting an ordinance together. And now, Bristol has only heard your silence, but the stench of inactivity is still here. We smell it in Washington County. At least 3 of you have proclaimed that you support protecting babies in the womb. Keep your word and pass an ordinance to restrict businesses from killing babies in our community. Thank you.
All right, next person is Sophia Humphrey.
I'm Sophia Humphrey. I live in Mendota, but for the first 4 years of my life, I lived in Bristol, not too far from here. I go to school classes here, I go out to eat here, and I watch movies here. So I do feel like that Bristol is my home, and I'm one of the community. The biggest school shooting that's ever happened in the U.S. was actually in the state at Virginia Tech. It is considered a massacre. 32 people were killed. But another massacre has been happening in this city. And you guys are doing nothing to stop it, but you can. And these massacres are going to continue to happen unless you do something. Recently, in only 1 week's time, it is believed that 50 human beings were killed while people were calling out to the mothers with hopes of rescuing these human beings in the womb. What kind of people are we if we rightly are horrified at school shootings, but we let these massacres continue to happen? The more you stall and cower and drag your feet, the more massacres are going to occur. You can lie to yourself, but the facts and truth of the matter are these are human beings in the womb who are being killed. And if you do not pass the safe zone, more lives will be on y'all's heads. So please stop this. Stop this stalling and overlooking this and put this an end to this death and destruction of human life. Please pass the safe zone. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person is Jacqueline Early.
Hello, my name is Dr. Jacqueline Early. I live on Briarwood Lane in Abingdon. I attend church at St. Anne, and I run a ministry in Bristol, Virginia. I also spend money here in stores and restaurants like other people that have spoken at these meetings. We have heard that you prefer to hear from the residents of Bristol. However, I want to call you out on this. This abortion business markets to women in the Southeast. They advertise on their website, and the owner has said in interviews that she wants to make Bristol the abortion hub of the Southeast. Cars from North and South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, West Virginia, Kentucky, and Tennessee have been documented at the abortion business. So your decision doesn't affect only Bristol residents, but all of us in this area and the bordering states. Your decision about this business and the abortion tourism it has created puts the responsibility for these babies' lives on you. You are responsible. So I would suggest you listen to all the people who are affected by this in this area. We have also heard that you are not seeing enough support at these meetings. At the first meeting, there was a gathering of 200 to 300 people, many of them Bristol residents, to show that they support making Bristol a safe zone. We showed up, told you where we stand on this issue, and you have been elected to represent and make decisions for us. If you require a crowd and your handheld at each meeting, then you need to step down and give these people your seats, since it seems you expect them here at every meeting. They elected you to represent them. That's how a council works. Please uphold your promise. You voted with a unanimous decision in October. Finally, let me say this out loud to reassure you that no one here is dumb or unaware that abortion is legal in Virginia. We understand the law. What we can't understand is you not being strong enough to represent the people in Southwest Virginia and not allow this to be an abortion tourism destination. You have the legal right to decide what businesses are in this town. You can decide if a casino comes. You can decide on whether to have a landfill here. Not every city has those, you know. The people here expect you to make good decisions for them and their families and to represent them whether they live in the city limits or they spend most days here working, attending church, shopping, or eating in the restaurants. Just because something is legal doesn't mean a city council is forced to allow it to open in their town. So quit hiding behind the legal argument and cowering when people tell you that you can be sued. You are not outlawing abortion. You are saying that this business is not going to benefit our town. What if Virginia legalizes needle exchange and prostitution? Are you going to welcome this into Bristol because it would be legal then? Is this right for our town? If this becomes legal, can we expect to have brothels here in our town next to the amazing brew pubs and music venues? Should we expect another 3 abortion mills to open on your watch? If this is your mindset, let us know now, because the hardworking Christian people here need to find another place to live, work, and pay taxes if you can't support their values with your decisions. We came out, a group of 300 to 300 people, made national news, and you can't seem to figure out who we are and what we want in Southwest Virginia because there are a few loud, angry people on the other side scaring you. Please step up and lead as you promised, or if you lack the courage and conviction, step down before you ruin this town. Thank you.
Next person is Danielle Bullen, or Buller.
Hello, my name's Danielle Bullen, and I live on Mendota Road as well, but I have many family members on both sides of the Bristol, Tennessee, Virginia line. There are a million different reasons that we as a nation are at the point that we are today. The biggest one being that men and women over and over have failed to stand up for what is right, choosing rather to do what is easy or what is less likely to end up with the slander of those who disagree with them, choosing their own comfort over the safety and well-being of those around them. Today, the issue of life, those who do not stand up are accused of hating women. They are accused of infringing upon the rights of others. But rather than hating, are they not loving their neighbor by standing up for them? And if we say that this is a life, that a child's life is valuable, then aren't we rather maybe doing too little and infringing upon the rights of others? Then maybe rather than doing too much and infringing upon the rights of others, we are doing too little to help those who are actually being infringed upon. You may join the silent ranks. Many others before you have. They stood and said nothing, or answered no questions they wished were asked, and when they had the chance to take a stand for what is right. And they are still questioned today. Why did they do nothing? Why did they not speak up? Where were they when questions were asked? I implore you not to join them. I implore you to take a stand for what is no right and to be immovable. You have the chance to make our city safer for tomorrow's children and to give them the right to life. If you choose what you think is easier today, you will find one day, as you stand before God, that it was not the easier choice, and you will find one day that you are not guiltless for the action that you take today. I thank you for the work that you have done. I thank you for getting it this far. Please take a stand today for the sake of the city of Bristol. You do not want to be known for your generation as those who did nothing when you had the chance, and to acknowledge the sacredness of life and the value of children. Thank you.
Thank you. Final person for public comment is Rosemary Burris.
Hey, Anthony. My husband graduated from Virginia High School in 1960, and he and I married in Atlanta in 1964. 1 week later, we moved to Bristol, Virginia. We have been faithful members of St. Anne's Catholic Church. We've developed a business here that my father-in-law started in 1962, which is still flourishing as a company, and they do business in Bristol, Tennessee, and Bristol, Virginia. I happen to live in Tennessee on Edgemont Avenue, but I have always loved Bristol. I have always tried to be supportive of Bristol and the people here. It's been a wonderful place to raise my family and to live for 70% of my life. And I am so devastated to know that Bristol is now becoming an abortion site, that people are coming from all of these different states. And I think it's just abhorrent that this is what our reputation is evolving into, unless measures are being taken or will be taken to stop this murder and stop this horrible, horrible killing of infants. Someone mentioned earlier that as pro-life people that we need to be concerned about children in the schools and all ages of children. We are always supporting our schools, our libraries, our food for the indigent, for people who don't have enough food, for the Salvation Army. My husband was a board member of Salvation Army for over 55 years. I come tonight because my good, sweet friend, Angie Bush, encouraged me to come. I don't like speaking in public. It has never been my strong point. But I have been a faithful citizen of Bristol, Tennessee and Bristol, Virginia, and I just pray that all of you will do what is right for our area. Please continue to know that it needs to be a good place to live. And it's not only for saving babies in the mother's womb, but it's also for saving people at the end of their lives as well. And I thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody, I just want to clarify tonight, I've heard a lot of people say that this ordinance would outlaw abortion within the city, and it would not outlaw abortion within the city if council were to take up the ordinance. What it would do is it would only restrict additional abortion clinics. So I don't want anyone to think that, if council chooses to take up this measure, that it would close down the current clinic out on Osborne Street. It would not. So I don't want anyone to think that that's what would happen if the ordinance was passed.
All right, thank you. We're going to move to item D, which is adoption of the agenda. Looking for a motion and a second.
I move to adopt with 3 postponements. Item 1, because the person making that presentation had a schedule conflict. Item 3, or rather item 4, because we're not quite ready for that one. And the consent agenda, because we need to have a 3rd member present to approve those.
All right, so we have a motion to approve the agenda, or to adopt the agenda, postponing items 1, 4, and consent agenda. I need a second.
I second that.
All right, motion by Mr. Pollard and a second by Mr. Farnham. Clerk, call the roll, please.
Farnham?
Yes.
Holmes?
Yes.
Pollard?
Yes.
Osborne?
Yes. All right, so item 1 is gone. So item 2 is presentation from District 3 Governmental Cooperative on Aging Services. No one has signed up for public comment. Staff report.
Can you just go forward? Just go forward.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Rhiannon Powers. I'm the Executive Director at District 3 Governmental Cooperative. We are the region's area agency on aging, and we also provide senior services, so you'll also hear us call District 3 Senior Services. We're also the rural public transportation provider, and we also, if you see those blue buses, we go by Mountain Links Transit. And I just wanted to come and speak with you tonight. While I'm not new to the District 3 agency, I am new to the position of Executive Director, only just a couple of years. So I wanted to, number one, introduce myself and then also give you guys an overview of our services as well. So, overview. The overview is that we are owned and operated by local governments and set up as a joint exercise of powers. So we have a representative from each locality, and right now, currently, Mayor Osborne is our representative on our board to represent the city of Bristol. But we're made up of 11 different localities. We serve the counties of Bland, Carroll, Grayson, Smith, Washington, and Wythe, as well as the cities and towns of Bristol, Galax, Abingdon, Marion, and Whiffle. Our mission is to help meet the critical needs and enhance the quality of life for the elderly, disabled, and transportation-dependent residents of the service area. We have facilities. We have approximately about 140 employees. We have a central office in Marion, Virginia, but we also have field offices, especially for our transit locations in Abingdon, Whiffle, and Galax. Our funding, we have a budget normally in a normal year of about $6 million. 50% of that comes from the federal level, 25% from state, 15% from local governments such as yourself, plus other contributions, and 10% from contracts that we have. The services that we offer. We have services for active seniors. We have a Volunteers in Motion program. We have about 100 volunteers spread out through the whole district, and most of them serve at the congregate nutrition sites and also provide checking services, which I'll explain a little bit more about that later. We have a job training and community service employment program. This is for folks who are 55 and older that we can help to train and be able to be job ready. And we have about 15 people, 15 to 17, somewhere on there each year. We have the congregate nutrition sites, which are also known as the Friendship Cafes. These are 15 sites around the area, and we serve, like you can see there, about 22,000 meals at those locations each year. This provides members to be able to get a hot meal, number one, and also, as you see, the health promotion. They can come there for health screenings, get flu shots, get information on nutrition. Some groups have exercise classes, some groups have music classes. They vary across, but it gives them a chance for socialization as well as a hot meal. We provide information and assistance. This is answering questions or linking people with services, whether it be our services or other services that are available within the community. Our chore and minor home repair program, we repair about 250 homes around about each year throughout the district. And you can see there, we build ramps, we build handicap ramps, we do grab bars, we do handrails, anything minor to be able to keep someone in their home independently as long as possible. Our emergency financial assistance helps to cover with food, fuel, which we've seen a lot of recently with the costs of heating going up. We've seen a lot of demand for assistance, emergency assistance with fuel. We assist with medications, any other critical needs that a senior may run across. We offer support groups throughout the district. I can get you guys a list of those. I didn't bring that with me. But these are mostly for Alzheimer's, dementia support groups, for family members and caregivers. Disability services is part of our division as well. We have a guardianship program. It's one of the state's largest, actually, and these are folks that are deemed incapacitated by the courts who need extra supervision and care. So we have about 130 people. That program is growing, so there may be more in the near future for that program to be added on. We also offer money management. We have folks who aren't able to maybe manage their own money well, and so we help them to help pay bills. They're referred to us by the veterans. We have two sections of that: the veterans fiduciary, so they're referred through the Veterans Administration, but also through Social Security Administration through the Representative Payee Program. We house the ombudsman, and the ombudsman is the person who resolves complaints about care provided in institutional and in-home settings. So they advocate for residents' rights. This is the person that you would contact if you were to have a loved one in the nursing home and need assistance, or know how to go about any kind of elder abuse prevention, that sort of thing. We also offer services for the frail and the homebound elderly. So we have a homemaker program, and you can see there we do light housekeeping. About 10,000 hours of service is what we usually generate each year. We also offer respite services. We contract that out. So that's to relieve family members who provide 24-hour care to a loved one, to be able to get out and to be able to have a little bit of time to do other things. We have a care management program. These are professional folks who go in. They go on site to the person's home and provide someone with more intensive needs. This person usually has multiple needs that we need to monitor, and so they go in and they assist a person one-on-one directly. Home delivered meals. That's one of the biggest programs that we offer, and we serve usually over 130 meals per year. Those are delivered each week, and usually the people get like a bi-weekly box, so they can get either 5 or 10 meal packs. So we offer that service, and that's big. Friendly calls, we have a lot of isolated seniors that don't receive a lot of contact, other than sometimes with their home delivered meals driver. But if we find somebody who is in that position, we have volunteers, or our staff even sometimes will make the friendly calls to check on that person, make sure that they're being taken care of. We have Virginia's largest program for Farm Fresh. We call it Farm Fresh for seniors. And this is where seniors can go and get locally grown produce at local farmers markets. And we serve about 4,000 people annually, so we are the largest provider of that in the state. We have the Senior Cool Care Program, where we have a contract with, Dominion Energy is usually who funds it, but we're able to provide fans and air conditioners in the summer months for those who need it. And the aging and wellness programs, these are evidence-based programs, and these are mostly group sessions. So group sessions to deal with chronic diseases such as diabetes, high blood pressure, chronic pain. Fall prevention is another one of the programs. And the newest program that we've started to offer is the Heart Healthy Ambassador Program. And this is to get blood monitoring blood pressure checks. So they're able to improve cardiovascular health, and that's the goal there with that program. We offer Medicare and Medicaid education and fraud prevention through the SMP program. But the biggest program right there that you've probably heard of is the VICAP counseling. We have trained counselors who assist people, especially during the open enrollment for Medicare Part D. Those plans change every year, and those rates go up and down. So we have trained staff to help folks work through that process. Benefits Enrollment Center, I tell everybody that this is like a one-stop shop for somebody who comes in with multiple things that they may know that they need help with, or may not know that they need help with. We were awarded the first BEC in the state of Virginia. It's funded through a federal program through the National Council on Aging. And it assists seniors or those who are disabled to apply for any kind of applications, federal, state, local, whatever it may be. You can come to one of our BEC counselors and sign up for anything from SNAP to fuel assistance, anything through USDA. You can get it all done at one time instead of having to go back and forth between agencies. I stuck in just a few numbers for the city of Bristol specifically, and these are in your, I did your, the financial grant when you have your, it's information in there. So if you wanted to look at that more specifically and more closely, it's in that document that you have. But just so that you could get an idea of the last federal fiscal year, what the numbers were of the people that we served in the city of Virginia specifically. And then I won't talk a lot about this because the city has its own public transit system, but we do offer for the other localities rural public transit. And you can see the number of vehicles. We have about 45 vehicles logging 580,000 miles, and 170,000 trips are provided yearly. Those trips are usually in transportation to commercial centers, to shop, rides to senior centers. We do provide transportation, for instance, to our congregate sites, the Friendship Cafes. And then we also offer travel for medical care, the one-on-one person who may need a ride, the senior who may need a ride to the doctor, that sort of thing. And this just lists our transit operations. And I just wanted to say thank you for allowing us to come and speak. And we do appreciate the City of Bristol for all the support that you give us and our clients, because it does mean a lot for those adults to be able to remain in their homes safely as long as possible. But I'm open for any questions, too, if you need.
Thank you, Ms. Powers, for your presentation. And you know, like you mentioned, I've been on your all's Board of Commissioners since 2018, so you know, this is an agency that does a whole lot of good for a whole lot of people in a whole lot of Southwest Virginia, and we appreciate it. If you could just hit on a couple things more in depth that I think you had mentioned. I know one program that District 3 had operated, and I believe it started during the pandemic, was giving vouchers to seniors to be able to get food, get hot meals from food cities. And I think we have a lot of food cities in the area that are participating.
When the pandemic hit, that was one of the things that we knew we couldn't do. You know, we couldn't offer a congregate site because everybody had to be socially isolated or socially distanced. So the main thing that we tried to do there is we still wanted those seniors to be able to receive a hot meal. And while they couldn't maybe gather together, they could at least get a meal. So we contracted with Food City, who actually does our congregate meals. They provide those on a normal basis. But we contracted with Food City to be able to give seniors a voucher. And at the time, at the beginning of the pandemic, they got 4. Now we've kind of weaned it down to 2 vouchers that they're given. And those vouchers are worth $10, and they can go to any Food City in our district and take those vouchers and redeem those for a hot meal off the hot meal bar. So that was just one of the things that we did, because we did continue to operate all the way through the pandemic. We knew that we were not an organization that could stop operating, especially because we provide home-delivered meals to people who can't get out. So that was one of the ways at least we could try to work around the congregate meal issue.
And there was a term in there that I believe I'm familiar with, but if you could expound upon it for some other people, Friendship Cafes. And
Friendship Cafes. Yeah. It used to be called, we always say congregate meals, but we had a lot of people, there are 25 actually agencies on aging within the state of Virginia, and some of those were kind of rebranding, and a few years back we decided to do the same thing as well. So our congregate meals, because some people won't recognize what that is, as easily as rebranding it to Friendship Cafes, which some of our other sister agencies had done. So we kind of looked to use the Friendship Cafe version to make that more of a welcoming, familiar name for folks.
And specifically here in Bristol, we operate the congregate meal site out of the Bristol Senior Center.
Yeah, mm-hmm. Right.
Any other questions?
They would love to come and, yeah, if anybody wants to come and visit one day, we'll be glad to have you.
All right. Michael, you good?
Do you have the schedule available for the Friendship Cafes?
If it's not on our website, I can't remember if it's on our website or not. If it's not, I can get that information to you. We have we set it up to where we have to serve an area per day. So, and I can't remember when Bristol's day is right off the top. But I can get that. And it may be on our website.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for presenting, and we appreciate it.
Thank you guys for all you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Before we move to our next item, since we are about an hour and a half in, we're going to take a 5-minute recess. All right. After that commercial break, we are back. We're going to move to our next item, which is consider a request by District 3 Governmental Cooperative to change the funding split on the FTA Section 5307 urbanized area. No one signed up for public comment, so staff report.
Good evening, Mayor and members of Council. I apologize for this lengthy summary, but I want to provide you with all of the information to the best of my ability. So the Urbanized Area Formula Funding Program, which is commonly referred to as Section 5307, makes federal resources available to urbanized areas for transportation planning, as well as transit, capital, and operating assistance in the urbanized area. An urbanized area is an incorporated area with a population of 50,000 or more that is designated as such by the U.S. Census Bureau. Bristol, Tennessee, Virginia has been designated as an urbanized area since the 1980 census. With each census, the urbanized area is redefined based on changes in population characteristics. Currently, the Bristol, Tennessee, Virginia urbanized area includes the cities of Bristol, Tennessee and Bristol, Virginia, a portion of Sullivan County, Tennessee, a portion of Washington County, Virginia, and the town of Abingdon, Virginia. Section 5307 funding is made available each year to eligible recipients. The funding formula is based on population and population density, and the funds are available the year appropriated plus 5 years. Matching funds are required of 5307 funding. The federal share can't exceed 80% for capital expenditures or 50% for operating assistance. The Bristol, Tennessee urbanized area and the Bristol, Virginia urbanized area receive separate apportionments. Bristol, Virginia Transit provides public transportation service in the city of Bristol, Virginia. And District 3 Governmental Cooperative, perhaps better known as Mountain Links Transit, provides public transportation service to Washington County and the town of Abingdon. Mountain Links Transit also provides public transportation service to areas outside of the designated Bristol, Tennessee, Virginia urbanized area, and they receive other funding sources, including federal formula grants for rural areas, or Section 5311, to support service in those areas. The greater Abingdon area and the US Route 11 I-81 corridor between Abingdon and Bristol became urbanized as a result of the 2010 census and was designated as such around 2013. In 2017, Mountain Links Transit was made aware that they were mistakenly using rural funding, or the 5311, to serve an area that had become designated as urbanized. At that time, they had no 5307 funding available. They were allowed to continue to use 5311 funding for a time and were able to transfer some of their buses to create an urban fleet. Since FY 17-18, the City of Bristol, Virginia and District 3 Governmental Cooperative have been splitting the Bristol, Virginia 5307 apportionment to enable both organizations to provide public transportation service in the urbanized area. Each year, we jointly submit a split letter to the Federal Transit Administration advising them of how we have agreed to split the funding allocated to our region. Historically, the split has been 69% of the annual 5307 funding to the City of Bristol, Virginia, and 31% of that funding to District 3. This split amount was originally based on the populations of the City of Bristol, Virginia, and the town of Abingdon, Virginia, and did not include the portions of Washington County, Virginia, that were designated as urbanized area. Mountain Links Transit has 5 daily routes and 2 weekly routes, which fall exclusively within the urbanized area. These routes serve the town of Abingdon and its periphery, as well as the US Route 11 I-81 corridor to the Bristol city limits. These 7 routes are paid for exclusively with 5307 funding. David Richardson, the Deputy Director of Transportation for District 3, recently reached out to city staff regarding some capital needs to build up their fleet of vehicles for use on the aforementioned 7 routes. They have requested that the Section 5307 funding allocated to the Bristol, Virginia urbanized area for FY 23-24 be split with 69% going to District 3 and 31% going to the City of Bristol, Virginia. They have also requested that the 5307 funding be divided more evenly between the city and District 3 in future fiscal years. The City of Bristol, Virginia is currently utilizing fiscal year 2018-2019 5307 funding for capital expenditures. Section 5307 funding lapses if not used within a specific time period. If we do not obligate all of our FY 18-19 funding before September of this year, we lose the ability to use that money in the future. In order to ensure that the FY 19-20 5307 funding allocated to Bristol, Virginia is kept within our urbanized area, staff recommends that we also revise the previously agreed upon funding split for FY 19-20 to give District 3 the larger portion, or 69%. This will enable District 3 to address immediate capital needs, and the City of Bristol, Virginia will still maintain a sufficient amount of funding from the FY 19-20 apportionment. And I have more information about Bristol, Virginia Transit and where we are financially and what funds we're using for capital and operating. That didn't make it into the packet. We're currently using CARES funding for our operating, and that is reimbursed at 100%, and we will be using that for about the next 2.5 years. We also receive money from the Virginia Department of Rail and Public Transportation for operating assistance. And that money that they give us every year, we can, if we don't use it, we can carry it over and continue to use it. So basically, for the City of Bristol, Virginia Transit, we're doing okay. And District 3 is kind of in a place where they could use the funding that we don't at this point need. I also have Tyler Gillenwater and Micah Bray. They're representing the Bristol, Tennessee, Virginia MPO. The MPO has provided a letter of support for this resolution. And if you have any questions, I hope I can answer them.
All right, thank you. Before we get to discussion, we're looking for a motion and a second.
Sorry. I move that we approve the funding split as presented.
Thank you.
All right, so motion from Mr. Farnham and second from the heavens somewhere from Mr. Holmes. Council discussion.
To be clear, the recommendation that is on the table right now is just for these 2 specific fiscal years, correct?
That's correct.
They're asking for additional discussion for future changes, but hopefully we can get some additional use of that here.
Yeah, so what I have letters for today are split letters for the FY 23-24 apportionment, which we send them the split letter in usually January or February, and then around June we find out, we get the letter that says this is the amount of money that each organization gets. And then the other one would be for the past appropriation that we received in FY 19-20, which is going to lapse in September of 2024 if we don't utilize it. And I think it would be better that it goes to someone else in our district as opposed to just going back to the FTA because we can't use it.
Both of these funding pools are only available for capital expenses, correct?
Well, the allocations from the FTA we can use for either operating or capital, but right now we don't need it for operating because we're using CARES funding for the operating, and we also get the money from DRPT for operating. So currently, we're just using the 5307 allocations for capital, but they can be used for operating, and we have historically used them for operating.
We've had some brief discussions concerning potentially expanding Bristol Transit. Is it possible that some of these funds could be used to expand Bristol Transit? Of course, the big concern is the ongoing staff expense with that, as well as the capital.
Right. So just a little background of what I've requested for the city's budget for the next fiscal year and grant applications that I've put in with DRPT. We're looking at doing a microtransit feasibility study to potentially expand service into evening and weekend hours. We're looking at maybe modifying a couple of our routes to hopefully increase the performance on those routes. I have put in grant applications for a couple of vans to be used for microtransit service, under the assumption that it's going to take a while to get those vans. So it's not going to be really anytime soon that would start. But the study could potentially start July 1, 2023. And the idea being that we could potentially start providing microtransit service July 1, 2024. As far as the operating with the CARES and the funding from DRPT, we're pretty set for the next few years. And the way these 5307 allocations have worked, before FY17, the city of Bristol, Virginia got all that money. We didn't share it at all. We just started sharing it in FY17. And kind of what's happening now is we're coming to that point where if we don't use it, we got to send it back. And there's only so much that I can ask for capital expenses that makes reasonable sense. I'm not going to go and ask for, buses I don't need, or just, a bunch of things that we don't need that would really just be kind of wasting this money. I think that splitting it more appropriately with District 3 would be a better use of the money. And it really does benefit Bristol residents as well, because we do have District 3 provides services to Bristol residents. They're the only way that people who don't have transportation can get to, for example, the DMV in Abingdon. So it's not like we're taking the money away from our residents or anything. We're just kind of reallocating it to a different service.
Is it possible that in future years, perhaps after these additional studies you're talking about, we could use some of these funds to help increase local services for evening and weekend hours, for example?
Potentially, yes. And the issue with these funds right now, so the FY19-20, if we don't obligate those funds, they are going to lapse September 2024. And the transportation planning that we have going on right now, I don't foresee being able to use those funds without, in their entirety. Like, I feel that they're gonna lapse. Going forward, 6-7 years from now, if we revisit the split and we start splitting it more 50-50 each year, then that's something to look at. Right now, we're kind of flush. We have some ARPA money. We have our FY 2021, 21-22, 22-23, 5307 allocations that are sitting there waiting for us to use it. And they're going to be there for a few more years. So the next few years we're going to be okay as far as this federal funding goes, as far as state funding goes. And that's something that we can revisit in the future, I think, in the next maybe 5-6 years.
So let me see if this would be a reasonable assessment. We've received a lot of one-time funds, which will allow us to pass along some of these other ones to a partner agency. Would that sound reasonable?
Yes, that sounds reasonable.
Thank you.
And just for clarification, for public information, like you had said, there are certain Bristol residents who can use the bus, for instance, to get to DMV.
Yes, that's one question that I get a lot from the United Way and other organizations. Bristol's Promise, they say they have people who need to get to the DMV, but Bristol Virginia Transit, we don't take people to Abingdon, but District 3 does.
And the Mountain Links also serves for Virginia Highlands Community College and takes City of Bristol, Virginia residents to the college for education. Are there any other questions? All right, hearing none, clerk, call the roll, please.
Farnham?
Yes.
Holmes?
Yes.
Pollard?
Yes.
Osborne?
Yes. All right. Next item is public hearing on a budget amendment for fiscal year 2022-2023. Go ahead and open the public hearing. No one signed up for public comment. Staff report.
sorry about that. We'll be presenting to you in the next item a budget amendment for the fiscal year 2022-2023. As you know, we continue to address the issues at the landfill. Obviously, those issues require a significant amount of funding. This is the largest request that we are bringing to you this fiscal year, and we feel this request is going to address many of the problems at the landfill, or at least we're making attempts to address those. These are made at the recommendation of numerous professionals, and we have the professional consulting service who is guiding us through that process, as well as expert panels and many others who are on board and guiding us through this process. So all of this is in response to all of those professional experts and the guidance that we're receiving in the city. This particular budget amendment also includes $1 million to address ongoing legal costs the city is experiencing. Those obviously have to get budgeted. We can't spend monies that are not budgeted. The remainder of those monies that are in this current budget amendment do address landfill temperature monitoring at the landfill, landfill large diameter well field at the landfill, landfill cover and shaping, benzene removal. Those last two items may possibly fall into next fiscal year. However, out of an abundance of caution, we're going ahead and including them in this year's budget amendment in case those do come in within the current fiscal year. We don't want to have to come back to you later and go through this process again and potentially hold up any progress. So we're going to go ahead and cover those in this budget amendment. We have landfill temperature monitoring. So, and then of course, you've already approved a bid on the sidewall odor mitigation system. I do want to remind you that of the nearly $12 million for the sidewall odor mitigation system, about $8.7 million of that is going to come from ARPA funds that are already sitting in the bank account. So these other amounts that would total $23.4 million for the solid waste fund include $8.7 million of ARPA and $14.7 coming from the general fund. The reason that this budget amendment is at $39.1 million, we must also, according to state law, we must also budget the transfer from the general fund. So $14.7 million of this is doubled up, but it's not true spending. True spending would be $24.4 million, general fund and solid waste combined. $1 million for general fund, $23.4 for the solid waste fund.
And council, I would also add, under the landfill large diameter well field on page 20 of the packet, we have that listed at $2.3 million. This was prepared prior to the bids being received. They closed on Friday at 2 o'clock, and the bid that came in was significantly higher than the $2.3 million. We're still evaluating that bid before we can move forward and bring that to council.
All right, thank you. Go ahead and close the public hearing and move to the next item, which is adoption of the budget amendment for fiscal year 2022-2023. No one has signed up for public comment. Is there any further staff report?
I'll just reiterate the comments that I made when we were talking about the public hearing. Those will remain the same.
Thank you. All right, looking for a motion and a second to take action on this.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the budget amendment, a budget appropriation as presented.
I'll second.
All right, motion from Mr. Farnham, second from Mr. Pollard. Council discussion.
Just the only thing I want to say is it's a big dollar amount, obviously, a large amount, but things that we've got to get done.
This is one of those classic cases where you could say time is of the essence. So we've got to get this approved and get things going. We don't want to spend any more than we have to, but when we have to, we have to.
You know, I'll just say, this is a tremendous amount of money. It's basically $24.5 million. And, you know, the unfortunate thing is we have no other option than to do this. We need to get this done as quickly as we can. We need to get it done as safely as we can. And we need to get it done correctly, because we don't want to go back in the future and have to do this again. So, I'm glad that we have all these appropriations in front of us tonight, so we can move swiftly to get this project going and furthered and offer some relief from the smell for the people who are affected by it. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk, call the roll, please.
Farnum.
Yes.
Holmes.
Yes.
Pollard.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes. All right. Section E of the agenda. E1 is an ordinance to approve the sale of 2 parcels of city-owned land located on Spyglass Court, Ordinance 23-1. No one has signed up for public comment. Staff report.
Council, the city received an unsolicited offer to purchase 2 parcels of city-owned land located on Spyglass Court in the Clear Creek Golf Community. A notice that the city would accept offers and a notice of a public hearing to occur on January 10th, 2023 regarding the possible sale of the property was published in the Bristol Herald-Courier on December 4th and December 11th. Offers were to be directed to Randall C. Eads, City Manager, at 276-645-7333 prior to January 10th, 2023 at 3 p.m. Any offer received after that date and time was not considered. We only received 1 offer, which was the initial unsolicited offer, nor have we received any other offers after the date of January 10th of 2023 at 3 p.m. The offer was for $25,000 for lots E1 and E2 at Spyglass Court. In the alternative, he offered $15,000, I believe, for lot E1 if we just wanted to sell only 1 lot. However, he is contemplating building 2 homes on each lot, 1 home on each lot for a total of 2 homes. So I would recommend that we sell both lots for $25,000 to the potential buyer.
All right, thank you. So now we're looking for a motion and a second for first reading, and that can be either by full reading or by caption only.
I move to approve and have us have the first reading by caption only.
Second.
All right, motion from Mr. Farnum, second from Mr. Pollard. Is there any discussion?
Just one quick update from my end. I did get a phone call from someone, and I answered, and it was the gentleman who made the offer on the land, and he was just sort of asking me procedurally what the process is for this, and he pretty much reiterated what Mr. Eads just said about his goal of building a house and a second house. There are some neighborhood restrictions in the neighborhood there about the size of house, building material. He told me he was very aware of those and understood what those meant. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you. Hearing no further discussion, clerk, call the roll, please.
Farnum.
Yes.
Holmes.
Yes.
Pollard.
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes. All right, reading of the ordinance by caption only.
An ordinance approving and authorizing the sale of property owned by the City of Bristol, Virginia, located on Spyglass Court, map parcel numbers 121-C-1-E1 and number 121-C-1-E2.
All right, thank you. E2 is an ordinance pertaining to camera speed monitoring and enforcement in highway work zones and school crossing zones. No one signed up for public comment. Staff report.
Council, this is an ordinance following the discussion that we had at last week's meeting in regard to cameras in school zones for speeding. This ordinance would add section 86-207 to chapter 86, article 5, division 3 to the city code. This ordinance would also allow photo speed monitoring devices to be installed in highway work zones and school crossing zones. I'd also add that the ordinance that we have prepared follows the state code, basically word for word, except for areas that we needed to change for the city of, where it names the city of Bristol instead of municipality or locality. So that has been changed, and the ordinance is before you.
All right, thank you. So now we are looking for a motion, a second for first reading of the ordinance, either in full or by caption only.
I move for first reading of the ordinance by caption only.
All right, motion from Mr. Farnham, second from Mr. Holmes. Council discussion.
I'll just jump in and say I'm happy that we're discussing this again, and we discussed it originally quite a while ago, and no action was taken, but we brought it back up, and I've heard a lot of folks voice their opinions, some against, but many for. Just me personally, I just felt that the goal is to get people to slow down in our school zones during the school day. And the studies that we saw showed thousands of people speeding each week during the school zone. So, someone reached out to me today and said this was going to make people mad in the city. And I said, well, it's only going to make the people mad that are breaking the law. So, I mean, yes, the city will benefit financially when someone pays a ticket, but I said at the last meeting, and I'll say it again, even if the city got nothing, I'd still vote for this, because for me, it's just about slowing down people in school zones. And I think I used an example last time about one of the first speed cameras in the area was in the Piney Flats area, and it got a lot of people, and people started slowing down. And even though that camera's not there anymore, I still slow down. It's just sort of ingrained in my memory. So if it gets people used to slowing down in school zones during the school day, there's some other benefits too, obviously, with it. But I don't see anything bad with it, anything negative with this.
Well, I didn't slow down in Piney Flats, and I got frustrated by people who did because I was staying under the speed limit. It seems that based on the reading of the code, and Mr. Reed's confirmed that it seems that it's possible that the cameras will only be allowed to operate while the lights are flashing, but we basically discussed that'll be an implementation issue for the police department, not so much a matter of this. We're going to be adopting it as the state specifies, and then it'll have to be enforced as according to the city code. We're adopting it like the state allows it to be. So a lot of those things are basically not something that we have to get into the weeds on. One thing that some people have expressed concern about is whether it's going to take a lot of time from the police department, and I wouldn't mind hearing their thoughts on this, but it's my understanding from the proposer of this arrangement that from what they've seen, it takes relatively little time, and it can be easily handled by an officer in their car during downtime rather than needing someone to be dedicated for it. So I like seeing that there's little overhead, and we're not, unlike what some other localities in Virginia have wound up with, we're not having to foot any of the bill for this ourselves. It's going to be handled entirely out of the 25% commission that they take. We're not going to have to pay for installing anything. We're not going to have to pay to maintain anything. And they have indicated that even in whether it's in smaller areas or larger areas, it's able to be handled fairly simply by the existing officers just using existing downtime. So I don't see that there are any real downsides to this. Some people may not like the cameras, but as Mr. Farnham said, it's only people that are insisting on speeding that are going to have a problem with it. If you stay actually with a fairly generous buffer, if you're up to 10 over the speed limit, which is itself dangerous, even at that point, you're still not going to be cited for anything. And the fee that we've proposed is $100. But if an officer pulls somebody over, they could potentially assign a $250 fee in addition to the fine. So it looks like it's a rather conservative allocation that we're having here.
Thank you. Mr. Holmes, do you have anything you want to add on this?
Thank you. I would just like to jump in and kind of reiterate what you said. I do think this is a good idea. I know some folks don't like speed cameras, and I get that. I don't care for them myself. But this is a very limited application of these within the city, just school zones. And I do think we do have some problems spots in our school zones with speeding. I've experienced it myself. I've probably done it myself, unfortunately. So this will hopefully increase safety and hopefully give us a good way to kind of curtail some of the dangerous situations like that. So I'm all for it. Thank you.
Thank you. I do have a quick couple of questions on it. So, right now we still have 4 elementary schools and then the high school and the middle school. Obviously that'll change, in a year or two. Correct me if I'm wrong, the only elementary school that is in a 35-mile-per-hour zone right now is Stonewall Jackson, right?
Yes. Well, and it's in 25 miles for a school zone.
Right, but I mean, like, normally, like, during non-school hours, that's a 35 through there.
Yes, I think it's 25 still there.
Well, I might have just told you I'm speeding, so let's pretend I didn't do that. So, when these cameras are up, will they be running from open of school to close of school, or just during the morning drop-off and pickup?
30 minutes before school opens, 30 minutes till school closes.
Okay. So basically what will happen is, if we do the first reading, we'll do a second reading and then a passage. So after that, what would the timeline be for these to be installed and active?
That I am not sure, but I have Greg Hawkston here who could tell you the timeline as far as the process. But it would take some time with further studies and as to how it would be implemented.
Yes, Mr. Osborne, that's correct. What the chief said, it would be based upon the future studies of the new school zone and the permitting process through the city engineering traffic department to see where the locations would be deployed, and they would have to meet every requirement from the traffic division of the city.
Okay, I appreciate it. And I'll say, I do appreciate that, there's no upfront cost to the city to do this,
No cost, no sir.
Yeah, the company handles that, and, you don't want to look at cost and benefit and how much money you're going to make. And as Mr. Farnham said, it's not about making money for us. It's about making school zones safer for kids. So that that's the angle I've looked at it. And if this is a way to prevent things from happening like happened a couple decades ago in front of Stonewall Jackson, where a parent was killed. If we can avoid those type of things and we can make school zones safer for children, it's a no-brainer to me. So I appreciate you all coming. I appreciate you waiting until the very end to talk.
No problem. That's what we're here for, sir.
Thank you. And thank you, Chief. Thank you. If there is no further discussion, clerk, please call the roll.
Farnham?
Yes.
Holmes?
Yes.
Pollard? Yes. Osborne?
Yes. Reading of the ordinance by caption only.
Ordinance 23-4, an ordinance to add section 86-207 to chapter 86, article 5, division 3 of the city code pertaining to camera speed monitoring and enforcement in highway work zones and school crossing zones.
All right, thank you very much. We tabled the consent agenda to a future date, so if there's no further business, we stand adjourned.